Hello and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's guest is Dr. Sarah Saxon. She's a facial plastic surgeon offering surgical as well as non-surgical procedures in private practice with locations in Austin and Dallas, and she's been practicing for the last 7 years. Now, she's a native of Texas, and Dr. Saxon graduated from Baylor, then did 4 years of medical school at the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio, 5 years of residency in otolaryngology, head and neck surgery at the University of New Mexico, and then completed a fellowship in Boston under the mentorship of Dr. Jeffrey Spiegel, who's also been on Beauty and the Biz. So Dr. Saxon also joined the faculty of the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where she taught residents and offered the full spectrum of both cosmetic and reconstructive procedures of the face, including facial trauma, congenital defects, hairline lowering, as well as facial feminization. Now in 2017, she founded her own surgical practice and medical spa in downtown Austin, and recently moved to a brand new larger space in Southwest Austin that will include a state-of-the-art ambulatory surgery center, while also practicing from a satellite office in Dallas. Dr. Saxon, welcome to Beauty and the Biz. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having me. What a lovely introduction.
Sure. So I always like to ask, why facial plastic surgery? How do you end up in that specialty and not some other?
Yeah, well, I actually always wanted to do facial plastic surgery even before I knew it was a specialty. I actually grew up taking art classes from second grade onward. And in high school, my art teacher would sort of funnel different clients into me because I really liked doing portrait drawing. And so I would just make, a little bit of extra money to go to the movies with my friends or what have you in high school doing that. So I always loved the face. And of course, I was an art geek and a science nerd. And so by the time I made it to college, I knew I was going to be pre med. But if I wanted to go to medical school, I absolutely wanted to be a facial plastic surgeon. And at the time, I thought that I would have to do a plastic surgery residency and just focus on the face after that. But then I met my mentor, Dr. Richard Holt, in San Antonio in medical school, who is a pretty well-known facial plastic surgeon. And so he guided me through that process. And it was just a perfect fit for me from a personality standpoint and from an anatomy standpoint. I love the head and neck anatomy. So it was a perfect fit for me.
By the way, if so you can draw pretty well?
At one point I could. I haven't practiced in a while.
But wouldn't that come in handy for your consultations when you're trying to explain something to a patient?
I do. I actually draw quite a few diagrams. I I make fun of myself doing it because it's so quick, but patients are usually pretty impressed.
Oh, that is such a little skill there, a hidden skill that really, it kind of differentiates you from others. Because if you can explain what you're trying to say in words, pictures always last a lot longer and are just more vivid. That's
Right.
good. Good for you. I would definitely
Yeah.
do that as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, we usually learn facial analysis early on, either in residency training or fellowship, but I learned facial analysis as far as drawing goes in the same way, even in, junior high and high school. So it just came naturally.
Nice. So you're in academia, and the big question is, when did you know it was time to leave and do your own thing? And what kind of mindset do you have to do that? And
Yeah.
what was that journey like? Because it's a big decision to make.
It was a very big decision. It was a interesting time. I actually only applied to academic positions for my fellowship. I was single and didn't have an extra, income to support me starting a private practice. I envy those that leave fellowship and immediately go into private practice, but at the time, had a lot of debt and I lived on credit cards and fellowship half the time. So I wanted to teach as well, but then an opportunity came along for me. My mom was actually on the lung transplant list at UT Southwestern. And so when I had a job offer with them, it was the perfect opportunity to be with her. She was in the hospital there, and part of the reason why I was brave enough to start a private practice was she did end up passing away in the hospital there, and I was already sort of, yeah, feeling like, a lot of the things I wanted to accomplish from a cosmetic standpoint were just not happening as quickly as I wanted to, and I didn't know that they would ever happen, to be honest, and so, because of being with my mom during that time, I knew, life was too short. I didn't wanna be unhappy for the rest of my career, so I bit the bullet and knew I had a non-compete in Dallas for 2 years, and so I knew I would have to leave. They did say that they would enforce it, and so I had recently been to Austin, again. I'd been a lot when I was in San Antonio for medical school, but it'd been a while. But I went to Austin for a bachelorette party, and I forgot how much I loved it, and so the day that I put in my resignation, I went home kind of not really expecting to put in my resignation that day, and I just decided I would move to Austin, and it was kind of that simple, and I don't really know how to explain it any more than that, but, it was the best decision. I love it here. I've now lived in Austin longer than any other place I've ever been at in my life, and so it's home now.
Oh, when you went to Austin, as in you found a location, or you joined up with somebody else, or you rented a space? How did you enter Austin?
Yeah, so I had to stay at UT about 3 or 4 months after I knew I was going to leave, and so that gave me a little time to travel to Austin and look at offices. I knew I didn't want to be in a group or even in a partnership. I'm a very creative person, I guess, and so I wanted that creative liberty to build a practice exactly how I wanted it. And so on a weekend, actually, I came and looked at several different spaces, and I found this really cool mid-century modern building. It was actually the a gynecology office in the 1950s that they had remodeled, and it was just really perfect. And I partnered with an interior designer who put a few glass walls around. We put in some plumbing for 2 exam rooms. Um, but yeah, so I bit the bullet and went into practice by myself.
How do you, all right, we'll talk about marketing in a minute, but so you're in Austin, and now you need staff, like how do you even I just find that so interesting. So what do? You say you try to hire somebody that says, okay, I'm a facial plastic surgeon. I don't have any patients, but I will. Come join me. Is that a tough sell?
That is very difficult, and of course, in the few years that I've been in practice, I've probably made every mistake you could possibly imagine. So I
So
guess
has
that it's
everybody else.
it's good that I got it out of the way early, I guess. I had a friend who I knew in Austin, who I knew from high school. We weren't close friends, but I knew her well enough to know she had a marketing background, but she was actually working at a high school at the time and really wanted to spread her wings. And so she was the first hire that I made, and did some practice management work and marketing, and was a patient coordinator. So kind of wore all the hats. And we did hire some part time front desk assistants at the time. And so that's how I started. And she stayed with me about a year and then decided it was just not a good fit. And so I'm actually on my third COO, actually, but my COO currently is one of my very close friends and is amazing. And I feel like we're finally in a good spot from a staffing standpoint. So
And you recommend hiring friends? I've heard mixed reviews on that.
I had to think long and hard on it, and I had several people give me advice, and I lost some sleep over it, but we established some ground rules, and actually, it's been the best decision I ever made. I know a lot of my surgeon friends, their wives help them in the office, and they have someone they can trust. And the last manager that I had actually was they she did a number on me. I found a lot of bills that weren't paid, a lot of things that were falling through the cracks, and I just needed somebody that I could trust and I knew would be my biggest fan just as much as a spouse would. And she is that. She came from the real estate world actually and ran her own business in real estate for years. And so she approaches the COO role from that standpoint too. So because of that, she has a marketing background and business, and it's been amazing actually.
I tap into the real estate world all the time because there are so many unemployed in that
Yeah.
industry, and they need to go somewhere, and they have the right typically, they have the right mindset. They like meeting people, they're friendly, they usually are presentable, they're smart, they have some drive. So I think that's a perfect place to go, you know?
Yeah. Actually, we have 2 aesthetic concierge now, and one came from real estate as well, and the other used to own her own weight loss clinic in Dallas, and she moved to Austin and was retired and wanted to come out of retirement to work with us. So they're both great.
Now you're doing so well that you outgrew your spot and so tell us that journey because there's nothing easy about what you just did.
Oh gosh, yes. So the original building had 2 office spaces upstairs and then a consult space. And very quickly, we had to take in those 2 office spaces to be more treatment rooms. So I did not have a personal office for quite some time. And then during COVID, our front desk space became our two-seater waiting area. And then what used to be our waiting room, we put a bunch of desks there. And so I had no privacy. We were crammed in there. I just couldn't, I didn't have any room. And so it took a long time to find the right space. In Austin, there's not, it's expensive for one. And the places that were big enough to also have operating rooms were just too expensive. So at the time, I had moved out closer to Dripping Springs during COVID, and I loved it out here. And a lot of people are moving out this way, and so decided, you know what? Why do I have to commute anymore? I'm just, I have a lot of patients that come in from out of town anyway, but there's also no plastic surgeons. It's still technically Austin, but it's right on the border of Dripping Springs and Austin. So I found a building here but it was just a slab, it was just the foundation, so it was gonna take a long time to not only build the shell, but, build the interior. My landlord in my downtown office wouldn't extend the lease another year to get us to the finish line, so then I had to sublease an office in a whole different area of town in North Austin. A friend of mine was a plastic surgeon who joined a group, but she couldn't get out of her lease. And so luckily she wasn't using her space. So I subleased her space for about a year and a half because construction takes longer than we imagine. In the meantime, I was able to negotiate. It was originally a lease on it's a 10,000 square foot building, but the owner wanted me in the building so much, he offered to finance me purchasing the building at a really low interest rate. So I had a certain number of months to make that decision after we signed all the paperwork. And as the interest rates went up, I knew it was a really good deal. So I decided to take him up on his offer to purchase the building. So I'm here until I retire. I'm not moving again.
Well, that was pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
Did you have any permit issues? Because I hear that a lot nowadays.
I hired a architect who specializes in healthcare, and the lucky thing for me is that because this land is annexed by Dripping Springs, so even though I have an Austin address, I had to go through permitting in Dripping Springs instead of Austin, and it made it way, way easier. So everything was a lot more smooth sailing as far as that goes compared to everyone else.
Oh, nice. I've never heard of that. It's a funny name, Dripping Springs.
Yeah, it's known for distilleries and wineries, and people come out here for weddings a lot because it's the hill country and beautiful views and everything. So popular destination now. So it's only about 20 minutes outside of downtown if you're not in a lot of traffic. So it's still really close.
That's fantastic. I have to look that up. All right, so now you're in this new building. Did you have to, because I believe it's like clear across town from where you were. So did that cause staffing issues for you?
It did, and actually all the staff I have now are completely different than before I moved into this building. We're still trying to hire for a medical assistant and another esthetician. We have two aesthetic concierge, and I just hired a physician assistant. And then my COO has been with me for over a year now. So um, it's hard finding good help in the office, but we're taking it slow and just finding the right people.
Yeah, I saw your ad on Instagram. I think that's such a great avenue. I mean, I think you need to put your ad everywhere you can, but have you had luck with that? Like putting up an ad, hey, we're hiring, you know?
A little bit, but most of the time we find people either from word of mouth or Indeed. We've used Indeed. That's hit or miss too. Um, Honestly, the best has just been word of mouth. Luckily, I've been in Austin long enough now that people know who I am, and some people are just anticipating us hiring, and then they'll contact us without even putting out a job description or anything online. So that's nice now.
Right? So now you also have a satellite office in Dallas. And I Googled the distance between Austin and Dallas, and it's like 3 hours. So what's the strategic plan there? Or is it just personal?
Well, so it was personal. I did keep a lot of patients in Dallas after I moved, and they would come down to Austin. So for a while, once my non-compete was out, I did rent space once a month from another surgeon just to see those patients up there. And it got so busy and so profitable, I realized that I could have my own space instead of lugging a suitcase full of supplies up every month. Um, I think, and this is one of the big mistakes that I made early on. I know it's important to have the mindset of scaling and maybe one day, selling the practice, but it was a little too early for that. And so at first, I did have some full-time staff in that office. I had an esthetician there, and patient coordinator. It was very hard though because without direct oversight all the time, it's really hard to manage. And so when my when my last practice manager, I had to let go and I was managing everything myself, it was just too much. And so I went from having an apartment up there, going up there every other week. I would also operate. So when I'd go to Dallas, I would operate on Thursdays and then have clinic on Friday, and kind of just going back and forth between driving and flying. And once I decided to basically reconsolidate everything and make it more manageable, I now only go up there 2 days a month, but it's back to back. And so once a month, I'll just bring the whole staff from Austin up with me. And it's actually pretty fun because it's kind of a girls' trip. We stay in a hotel and go out to dinner and it's fun. And so we're there on a Thursday and Friday once a month, and it's still very profitable. However, I also have a friend subleasing the space now who just started a direct care ENT practice. She was also on faculty with me at UT Southwestern. So for now, I have a few more years on the lease, and I'll continue to evaluate that as time goes on. But instead of making things bigger and wider and scaling, I'm kind of scaling it back now into making a bigger practice just here in Austin and just going to Dallas, once a month.
Unless there's a reason to go to Dallas, it's just what'll happen is you'll be distracted. I just find these satellite offices can be a big distraction, and as you already learned, it's very difficult to manage them, and you seem to lose sight of oftentimes the money, the staff labor costs, what's everyone doing, where are all the
Yeah,
supplies going. I would just so think that through, although you're young, so you might as well do it now.
yeah.
If you're having fun doing it, but.
Yeah, and we track the profitability of it, and right now it makes sense from a financial standpoint. Dallas everyone in Dallas loves plastic surgery. So sometimes in 2 days of just seeing consults and follow-ups and doing injectables, and we have some devices up there, so doing some skin treatments, we'll make as much revenue in 2 days as much longer period of time in Austin. So right now it makes sense.
Right? Have you noticed the difference between patients in Austin versus patients in Dallas?
Yeah. Patients in Austin like to keep things really secretive. They don't want anyone to know they're having anything done. And Dallas is so funny because they own it. They love it. They'll go to the grocery store with a little nasal cast on or stitches in and they don't care.
Because I spent a lot of time in Austin and I thought, boy, these are natural people. And I thought, where's the plastic surgery part? Because I know a lot of plastic surgeons there. And
Yeah,
you guys have to do minimal and, it's all natural looking results.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It's
nothing wrong
really
with that.
funny.
It's just so different to have both. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the nice thing about Dallas too. It's a little vacation and just a change of pace, and so I still love it, and everyone loves going there.
Yeah. So, I mean, you picked two very competitive arenas. Austin got a lot more attractive, especially after COVID. It just a lot of things changed. Frankly, I think half of California moved to Austin or Tennessee or Miami. So.
Right.
But I've watched as the years have gone by, like how many surgeons have gone to Austin. But it sounds like so did the public. So there's supply and demand. Are you still in good shape there? Supply and demand.
Yes, but a good portion of my patients come in not just from Austin, from all over Texas and really all over the country. I'm fairly niche, since I did Dr. Spiegel's fellowship, I do a lot of facial feminization, both in transgender patients and in cisgender patients. And so I'm so specialized that not many other people do the procedures that I do. So that's nice in that I can kind of be anywhere. And it has been harder for as far as like the more traditional procedures like facelifts and brow lifts and blepharoplasties. That definitely has a lot more competition in Austin now for me.
Yeah. The facial feminization, I didn't realize how big of a market that is. It's quite amazing. I'm actually in San Francisco, and the reimbursement for that is unbelievable. You
Oh,
know,
really? I
really
did not
unbelievable.
find the same.
Yeah, in California, you can't get an implant. Apparently teeth are optional here, but boy, can you the facial that world is alive and well. So, does anyone else do facial feminization in Austin?
There's 2 other surgeons in Austin. One of them, I think, is mostly taking insurance. I don't take any insurance anymore. I know Dr. Adam Weinfeld, he's in Dr. Johnny Franco's office. He does some I'm not sure how busy he is doing facial feminization because I know he does face and body. Um, but in Dallas, it's about the same. There's 1 or 2 other people, doing some. So
So how much of your practice, out of 100% pie, how much of it is facial feminization?
I would say between 30 and 40% now. It used to be closer to 50%, but I'm really growing my aging face practice now,
Oh, no kidding.
more so than when I first started the practice. I think a lot of my patients are aging with me. So, patients of mine that I've been doing injections for years are now ready to have a facelift. And also, the area that I'm in now around Dripping Springs, it's a lot more popular to have facelifts versus where I was at downtown. And so where I would say it was 50% before, I think it's a little lower now.
Gotcha. And then what about local versus general? I've noticed you're doing some of the local. I find the patients are very interested in local if they can get away with it. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, right now, because if I'm doing a facelift, I'm usually doing many other procedures. I still attract patients that want some of the more feminizing procedures like cranioplasty and jaw contouring, things like that. I really can't do that under local. And so, because I'm combining those procedures with other things, I'm usually either doing something under straight local like a lip lift or, buccal fat pad excision, or if I'm doing a bigger procedure, I'm under general at the surgery center.
For sure. So do you find the demographics because you're very young, so I think it's so interesting when you're young, because I'm older, I would look at you and think, you're a surgeon, huh? You're going to do a facelift. Like it's really psychologically, it kind of messes with you thinking, my God, you could be my daughter, or my granddaughter. Do you
Yeah.
find that like, how do you gain their trust looking so young?
I do. I like to joke with people that I'm a little older than they think I am. Most
Yeah.
people think I'm in my early 30s. I'm like, I was just getting out of training then. But I do my aesthetic concierge, both of them are either my age or a little older, and that does
Oh,
help.
that's help. Yeah.
And then just having really good before and afters. I do think it works to my advantage to be a woman in facial plastic surgery, to be honest. I'm a little bit they're a little bit more comfortable just talking about personal things with me, and so that's a plus, and I view things as, quality over quantity, so I do spend a little extra time in a consult versus someone who is probably later in their practice and is a lot busier than I am. I can spend an hour to an hour and a half in a consult, and I know others don't do that, so
No. No, they don't.
yeah.
How are you marketing yourself? And are you doing it differently in Dallas than in Austin?
Yeah, in Dallas, we really haven't done any marketing. Of course, we have our website that says we're in Dallas as well, so SEO does pick that up. And the rest is word of mouth, and then the patients that were already there. I do have some family in Dallas, so I have some patients connected with them, and that's just grown over the years organically. In Austin, of course, just our website. I don't pay for SEO actually. We just changed our website. I was paying a company to do that, but they weren't doing a good job. And it was quite honestly a lot of money down the tubes. And so I went back to a WordPress site and I can manage that myself along with my COO. And I try as hard as I can to be consistent with Instagram. It's oftentimes not as consistent as I would like, as well as YouTube. And then since we're out here in Dripping Springs, we do advertise in, it's called Dripping Springs City Lifestyle Magazine. And I wouldn't have done the same if I were still downtown, but in this area, it goes to every house in the vicinity, and people actually do look at it. So we have gotten quite a few patients from that, a full page spread. um, we, going to the local festivals, we had a booth at our Founders Day festival, so that helps too. Just being a part of the community helps for local. And lastly, I tend to get a lot of patients from things like Reddit. I do a lot of hairline lowering, so I guess my name is out there on Reddit, and so I get patients from all over the place for that.
Consumers don't even know about that. And so they're fascinated when they say, really, you can do that. It's amazing what you can
Yeah,
do nowadays. If there's something about your appearance you don't like, I guarantee somebody out there has a solution for you.
right.
Reddit, I actually talked about Reddit on a blog post recently. I said, I'm telling you, just Google something like, just like Google, anybody know anything about a tummy tuck or anybody have a tummy tuck? Boom, the whole page of search results is already, and it's everybody just chit chatting, and it's like real self without the structure to it. So that's also because now everyone can jump in and talk about tummy tucks, but you feel like it's so raw and authentic, and nobody's got a hidden agenda there. And there, I say figure out how to be part of that conversation in Reddit or in any forum or in anything that women are or people are talking. It's a good
Yeah,
idea.
I don't even have a Reddit account, so it was
Oh,
it was surprising to
you
me.
probably should.
We actually yeah, we were tracking it, and we get so many patients from Reddit. It's, like, really funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh, that's so funny. So the social media, I know, like you're up to 4,000 followers, and that's not bad. But God, I mean, God knows, others are like, if you don't want it to be a full time job, you either have to hire somebody to do it, but hiring an agency, I feel like because we even do social media for people, and you can just tell it's an agency doing it. It's
Right.
so inauthentic. It's so
Right, yeah.
plastic.
Yeah, and when I first opened the practice, one of the, uh, you know, front desk girls that I hired, she was actually just really good at social media, so I transitioned her over to be our brand manager, and she was great. And so she handled all of our social media, she started our YouTube channels and Pinterest and everything, but she was so good, she decided to be a full-time influencer, and she moved to Miami, and that's what she does. So since then, I haven't really had a full-time person doing it. I've tried to find somebody, and we've hired, um, 1 or 2 other people through the years, and they just don't really stay long enough to have, some consistency, so that's really difficult, and, I also want it to show my voice, and so I just need to be better at it. Now that we're not in construction anymore, I think that I have more time to focus on that, and so it's now blocked off.
But it's really good content when you're showing your office. Like you showed it, when it was nothing, and then you were showing it as it was growing. That's really good content. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but now
I try
that's
to do that.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a beautiful office, by the way. Tell us like the craziest patient or staff story you have to date that you could share.
Oh gosh, craziest patient or staff story. Oh, well, I do. Our Wendy, our current one of our patient concierge, she's really funny. I wouldn't say this is crazy, but she we it was it was right around Easter, so it wasn't that long ago. And we did a combination skin treatment on her with Morpheus and our erbium YAG laser, and her face puffed up like a balloon. And she came to our Dallas office. She flew up there that morning and we met her there, and she could barely see out of her eyes that day. I had to call her in some steroids, but she booked so many skin treatments that day. Everyone in Dallas wanted the same thing even though she was puffy. They still were there like, "Oh, you're going to have a great result. I want what you have." So I just
Wow.
thought that was so funny.
And she got on a plane with that. I wonder if you get your
Yeah.
lips swollen on a plane. That sounds awful.
Yeah. She was more worried because she, was going to see her family for Easter that weekend, and so that's why we ended up giving her some steroids just so that she could be with her family and not worry about it.
Yeah. Did she end up getting a great result?
She did, yeah, she loves it. She wants to do it again, but, it's not the good time in the summer. So in the fall, she's down to do it again.
I think it should be a requirement when you hire somebody that they will partake in the services you offer. Nobody's a better walking, talking testimonial than the staff representing you, and it makes everything so authentic versus pushing or selling or just being, you know, being pushy. You're not now.
Yeah.
You're just telling your story and showing your own results. I mean, what a great way to market.
Yeah, and of course, when I do skin treatments, I don't bother, putting on makeup when I'm in clinic the next day because they can see, me healing from a skin treatment and they know that I do the same things. So when someone comments about how young I look, I'm just saying, I'm never going to age. I'm really a lot older than you think.
And you're drinking the Kool-Aid, like, who
Yeah.
you're the best ad possible,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
last question, tell us something we don't know about you.
So I think something that most people don't know about me, and this is really just the last year, I think because of all the stress of building out my new office, I got into gardening. So vegetable gardening. I just find it really relaxing. And if I mess up at it, no one's gonna be hurt by it. I'll just be my own thing. So I have so many built up raised gardens with a really intricate, watering system that's on a timer. And I go out there every morning and evening and, take care of my plants that I think it's so funny because I never knew how to do any of that before this year.
Oh, yeah.
And I
What
just
what are you
taught,
growing?
oh gosh, I have all types of herbs. I have green and white onions. I have tomatoes and eggplant and peppers and cucumbers and now I'm really into planting pollinators that can, pollinate all those vegetables, so different types of flowers. I have some green beans and and peas going up right now. So I have a lot.
Are you eating all of this?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Yeah. It's really nice because my house out here is on 2 acres, on some land. I can't see any neighbors. So even though I'm not really way out in the country, I kind of feel like it. And so starting my own little homestead out here.
Good for you. I desperately want to live in that with no neighbors. I want to live on
Yeah.
a mountain with a great view, killer view of, I like water. So a killer view of water. I don't need to be in the water. I just need to look at it. And are your dogs with you?
Yes, so I have 2 dogs. I have a golden doodle and a sheepadoodle, so they help me out in the yard. They're my 2 children.
Yeah. In your Instagram, because you first had the, what's the other dog's name? Luna, Franny, Francie?
Francie and Luna. Mhm.
Yeah. So first you had Francie, but then you got Luna, and she's the sheepadoodle or whatever. Isn't it amazing
Yes,
what
she's
they do nowadays with these dogs?
yeah.
Yeah, everyone's
I
got a breed.
actually I actually got Luna because my golden doodle, Francie, she was having some separation anxiety and
Yeah.
started having seizures,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that started after our snowmageddon. We had this crazy snowstorm in Austin, everything froze, and so after that, she started having a lot of anxiety, so I got Luna to keep her company when I'm at work, and
Oh,
everything's fine now, she's doing good.
oh, that's so sweet. Oh,
Yeah.
they're adorable. Anyway, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure having you. Do you have any parting words or advice or guidance for anybody who wants to jump into private? Any words of wisdom?
I would say if you really, really wanna do it, it's completely worth it. It's very difficult, but you have to have a lot of grit, and you never can give yourself an option to not succeed, and so anytime you're running up against, you know, a hardship or your bank account's getting super low, you'll always find a way to make it work as long as you want it enough. It's not for everybody, but if it is for you, then it's totally worth it.
That's fantastic. Oh, by the way, if anyone wanted to get a hold of you, what's your website and how would they get in contact?
Yeah, so my website is saxonmd.com. You can also get in touch with us at our Instagram at saxonmd. I answer all the messages through there, so that's probably the easiest way.
Okay, and Saxon, just in case you don't know, is Saxon. I had trouble with that. I told the doctor I wanted to add a T because it's Saxon, but she said no, it's
Think
just Saxon.
yeah,
Saxon. Okay. And then if you've got any questions or feedback for me, you can certainly leave them on my website at Catherine Maley, or Instagram is Catherine Maley MBA. Thanks so much, and we will talk again soon. Take care.
The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.